The 90s were very good to me.
I got one for the UK, one for Latin America, and now Best Actress in the US.
When you think of the 90s, you can't help but think of Melissa Joan Hart.
Really?
Thank you. For sure.
Into your morning.
I was a big commercial girl. I was known in second grade as the Rice Krispies girl.
You are probably wondering how the Darling family got into this sorry state.
Clarissa was this interesting show because it was so popular, but it really took off after the fact. And to have a girl lead was sort of rare at the time still.
Because Salem needs a date really fast, send him someone he truly loved from the past.
What do you think was the magic within that show?
Well, it was the magic.
It literally.
The magic was the magic.
Melissa Joan Hart, I know you have heard this from so many people over the years, but we know each other. I definitely know you, girl, without a doubt. Clarissa Explains It All was my jam back in the day.
Thank you.
My little 6, 7-year-old self, I was like obsessed. If Clarissa decorated her room like this, if you wore something, if you said something.
Oh, you didn't paint like black checkerboard on the wall, did you?
If my parents would have let me, it would have been done. But I remember I was like, I need a stop sign, I need an exit
Oh my
sign.
gosh, that's so
I
funny.
want a ladder on a second-story room.
Yeah,
They're
except
like,
that was on the first floor of a studio, and Sam would lay on the floor and throw the ladder up and then get on his knees and climb in. It was only 3 rungs. It was-
No! You have been working for a long time.
Yeah.
Since the age of 4, you
Yeah.
started out as a model.
Well, I did a commercial for a bathtub toy, Splashy. So my first job was having to disrobe in front of a crew and get into a bathtub, and I was very shy about it, apparently. I booked a lot of auditions as a little girl, especially with commercials. I grew up in New York, and New York is a very big commercial town, very big soap operas and theater, and so I did a ton of theater. I was known in second grade as the Rice Krispies girl.
Aren't you going to play our song for us? I kind of forgot it.
Then I was known as the Arnold's Bread Girl, the Lifesavers. Like, I did all these amazing Barbie. Those were the best because I got to take home a dream house one time. They let me take the dream house from the set. So I scored some toys. It was good.
Now, who lit that fire in you to get a start in commercials and theater and acting?
You know, it was really the show Romper Room, which you're too young to know. Romper Room was a show, and it was Miss Marianne would say your name in the magic mirror, and she would never say Melissa. It wasn't a popular name.
Well, I see Shmuel and Trisha and Betty and Cheryl Ann.
And I realized, I did the math, and I was like, she's saying the names of the kids that are sitting in front of her. So I need to get on that show if I want her to say my name. So I said to my mom, I gotta be on TV. And she knew somebody who was auditioning in New York a lot, and so she called the mom and got a manager, and I booked my first audition for the Bathtub Doll Splashy.
That is one way of going after
And then
it,
it just
girl.
kind of snowballed from there. Like, you know, it was a lot of, like I guest starred on an episode of The Equalizer, the TV show
Yeah.
in the 80s. I did, you know, a lot of Saturday Night Live, actually. Anytime they needed a little girl, I was in a skit in Saturday Night Live. I did a ton of theater. I was the youngest member of the Circle Repertory Company, very young. I got to see Alec Baldwin on stage do Prelude to a Kiss in a small downtown theater in New York. And I remember meeting Christopher Reeves in the audience that night and just thinking, wow, my life has been made. I met Superman, and Alec Baldwin is shirtless in front of me in Prelude to a Kiss. And I was like 10.
And then the 90s come along, and the 90s were so good to you.
They were.
But what was it about the 90s that seemed like you were just ready for this stardom?
You know, it was all this snowball effect, and like growing up in New York, I feel like there was a difference between New York actors and LA actors. LA actors were around a lot more Hollywood stuff, right? A lot more premieres, a lot more access to people, a lot more you could go to lunch and run into somebody. New York wasn't really like that. It was the theater and the TV, and so it was very much more a, you want to work. You just want to work, you know? And so I think that what happened was Clarissa happened. I did 3 auditions for that and ended up in Orlando for 4 years. So I was kind of kept out of the Hollywood scene and knowing what that was all about until I got the show Sabrina in my 20s. And I think the 90s just, you know, Clarissa was this interesting show because it was so popular, but it really took off after the fact because it was on Nickelodeon, it was on cable. So cable wasn't a big deal. Not that many people had cable. And that show really helped Nickelodeon find a new, at the time it was like sort of game shows and variety shows. And Clarissa was its first real sitcom, I think.
Yeah.
And to have a girl lead was sort of rare at the time still. But on cable, to have this show just sort of like pick up but slowly build, and still to this day, like I feel like it's still building. Yeah. And then because of that, it springboarded me into Sabrina. So I'd had this successful show that was still gaining heat after it wrapped. And my mother was handed a comic book on a playground in New York City, and it was the Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which was an Archie comic. And they said, we think this would be a great next role for Melissa. My mom took it, went to Archie Comic, bought the rights to it for $1, took it to Viacom, said, I want to make a TV movie. They were like, let's make a movie for Showtime. And then from that, my mom kept saying, it would be a great TV show, it'd be a great TV show, it'd be a great TV show. And she had started managing my career right after Clarissa because she didn't like the offers I was getting after Clarissa. She didn't like the direction. She's like, she was known on a kid's show and now you want to throw her in these adult roles. Well, even though I was 18, she's like, I don't think the people that have followed her this far are gonna wanna watch her.
Right, you needed to segue in a sense.
So we wanted to build a family-friendly programming block, kind of the way I grew up in the 80s, where there's one TV in the household and everybody sits down to watch that television.
Yeah.
And so my mom, being as smart as she is, sold the show to ABC and put it in the TGIF time spot, and it was just, it took off like that.
Your mom is sharp.
Yeah. She is. She really is.
You sound like the perfect working duo right there. You in front of this, you know, in front of the camera, she behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Was it always like that throughout your career?
It was. I mean, she was always the powerhouse behind me. I mean, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to go do auditions. You know, and she was always sort of managing my career in a way of like, let's do this job, let's not do that job, and picking a path for me, and just managing me in a way that made sure that I grew my audience, as opposed to turn them away just because I got older and I wanted to be sexier or fancier or whatever. It wasn't always trying to find that great Oscar role. It was like, what's the next thing your audience will watch you in, you know?
I want to go back to Clarissa. What was it about that role that made it the perfect match for you?
With Clarissa, I think that, well, the producer really didn't want a blonde. He did not want a blonde. He was like,
Why?
absolutely not. Blondes can't be non-conformist, cool, groovy, they're, you know, so smart, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that that's why I had to audition so many times for him, because he just couldn't get his head around the way I looked versus what he had imagined. But I think it was my fast-talking, kind of witty, you know, I always get told I have to slow down. Nobody can understand me, I talk too fast. But I think that that's also one of those things, you have to have timing, and I think I had that timing. And coming from theater into sitcom isn't that big a segue, because you still have to be big and broad and play out to the audience a little bit.
I'm still working on the silent treatment. The question of the moment, is this fun or what?
Why do you think it made such a big impact with young girls?
There's so many different reasons. I hear from people all the time saying that Clarissa got them started in their fashion careers, because she was just, the wardrobe was so crazy wild, right?
Yeah.
I can't even fathom how they put those things together. But also not sexy, not like you see these days, not crop toppy, and you know, it was like big baggy Keith Haring t-shirts tucked into a belted dress with leggings and combat boots. And
Yeah.
just like, you know, different. And it was very much an east, like the east side of New York, you know? It was sort of like this style, and that's where the wardrobe stylist came from. So Clarissa had a lot to do with the wardrobe. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that her best friend was a boy, and the other characters are boys on the show. But it was also, and this is the part I'm maybe not too proud of, is it was one of the first shows where the kids talked off to the parents a little bit, where the kids were smarter than the parents, or perceived to be smarter than the parents, even though it's sort of from a kid's perspective. Of course, we all think we're smarter than our parents.
Of course.
You know, sometimes parents are so dumb.
But I think that it's the first time you really saw that in television. Nowadays, I think it's gone to a point of being nasty, where I hear my kids saying things they hear on TV shows, and I'm like, oh, no, you don't talk to me that way, you know?
Yeah, ain't flying in this house.
No, but I feel like it's it was a show that was just really smart too. Those writers from Clarissa went on to be showrunners for Friends, went on to be showrunners for The Office. I mean, they went on to do big things.
What about the fame that you experienced from that show? You like were catapulted to this instant fame.
You know, it's funny, I actually never felt that.
Really?
No, because Clarissa started on Nickelodeon on cable, and not that many households had cable.
But honey, you had Teen Beat, you had Bop, you had, I mean,
That
every kind of teen
I think-
magazine.
I feel like that came a little later. I did a People magazine photo shoot, and I was probably 14 when that happened. But really, it didn't feel like that. You know, it definitely, if it was that, I definitely didn't sense it. You know, in New York City's not that many kids, and not that many kids watched Clarissa until later on.
Yeah.
It picked up speed, I want to say, around third or fourth season, and I remember being recognized on the street and people being like, are you on that show Clarissa? And I'm like, you watch Nickelodeon? Okay. You know, and being a little snobby about it. I think the very first time I ever got recognized, I was kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. You watch Nickelodeon? Oh, okay. Like,
But look where it got you. You took a break.
I know,
you
and I'm so proud of it now. It's so funny because I definitely had a sense of, like, you see a lot of these pop stars or TV stars or movie stars, kind of the one thing that made them, they want to push away. The one song that's
Why
their big
is
hit.
that? I've never gotten
I think it's
that.
because people always want it, want to talk about it, and you're so sick of talking about it, and as an artist, you want to keep growing, and you want to keep moving forward, and you want to keep finding new roles or writing new songs or whatever it is as an artist that you want to, and you're known for this one thing, you want to disconnect from it so much until later on when you get older and mature enough to appreciate it, you know?
So after Clarissa ended, you stepped back briefly from Hollywood because you thought you were going to go finish up at,
I was
to
gonna
school
start
at NYU.
college.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is the very first time I remember having a real conundrum, like a real, at a crossroads, was right after Clarissa ended, and I was like, I am going to college. Because no one in my family had really gone to college, but it was important to me. I'm gonna go to college. Yeah. And I only applied to NYU. I only wanted to go to NYU. I only knew about NYU. And I was looking for my other career. I'd heard all the horror stories about child actors. They don't last, it doesn't, develop well, and usually you have one big role and you're done. And I just wanted something else, and I wanted options. And so college was really important to me, and immediately I got offered this TV movie called Family Reunion, A Relative Nightmare.
Sure. I'd rock you in my arms and you'd drool on my dress.
Well, I still have a slight dribbling problem.
But it was gonna cut into my first 4 weeks of school. So I made the really tough decision to go do the movie and postpone school until January. And I think then I went to school that semester, the fall semester, and by January of the next year, I was doing a Sabrina movie in Vancouver, which then translated to, I think it was later on that year,
The show.
I'm doing a TV show.
So 96, Sabrina happens. What do you think was the magic within that show?
Well, it was the magic.
Literally.
The magic was the magic.
I'm gonna put this away the magical way. Excellent.
I think the thing is, these escapists, these shows that have these magical elements to them, Bewitched before me, and I Dream of Jeannie, they have this element of wish fulfillment, and everybody wants to know, what would I do if I had that power? So watching 163 episodes of what would I do if I had that power is exciting.
Yeah.
And we were able to sprinkle it in. First of all, amazing writing team and incredible casting and just fantastic special guests and musical elements and animals. We had more animals on that show than I think anyone's ever had on a TV stage ever. We had elephants and donkeys and oh my gosh, an alligator that almost ate our puppeteer. Like, we had a panther, and we had, I think, 2,000 pounds of candy corn come out of a doorway, and just like insane things. But that wish fulfillment element, I think, will always hold for people. They love to see that. I mean, it's why Harry Potter is so big, and I think that that's something that people really gravitate to, and especially because when times are tough, people want something good to look forward to, or something good to watch, or something light and easy to watch, and that's what we try to give them. It was really well cast.
You, Beth, Carolyn. I mean, what was it about? How did you guys achieve that chemistry? Was it natural right off the bat?
So what I've learned about chemistry and acting, and I never took acting classes or anything, but I did work with an acting coach who was really great at chemistry, and I figured out that I think I'm really good at making chemistry, creating chemistry between myself and others. I think that I set the tone of like a really trusting person who, I'll tell you about me, you tell me about you, and we'll have fun. And I'm at work to get the job done and then go home to my family. And that's always been my thing. I'm not loving being at work all the time, but I'm not hating it. I'm having a great time, but I think that creates good chemistry and creating a loving environment. Life's too short to go to work and not have fun. So I like to create a fun environment on the set. This is a crew that we were a family and we supported each other, and it's like everyone got to grow. So the second assistant camera guy became the first camera operator, and our first operator became the DP, and like everyone got to direct, and it became a nurturing environment for everybody to grow.
I love that. After Sabrina, I mean, like, you've been non-stop. After Sabrina, then you went on to Melissa and Joey.
Yeah.
See, that works.
Yeah, because when we're kissing, you're not talking.
That show
was a really fun one, although I was living in Connecticut, and so I had to travel out to LA a lot, so that was hard on me personally.
Oh, really?
But it was such a fun character. That's my favorite character I've ever played.
Really? Why?
She was just such a flawed person, and instead of always being the center of the the mess and trying to pull it together like Sabrina or Clarissa was, Mel was the tornado, and I got to have so much fun with that. She was a lush, she was a slut, she was just a fun character. Everyone assumed it was a kid's show, but really it was an adult show.
Right.
And just happened to have some kids in it, but it was a really fun character to play, and I really miss her.
Opposite, though, you and Melissa and Joey was obviously Joey Lawrence. So what was that like being able to work with him?
Well, Joey and I had known each other since we were like 6 years old in New York in the audition room all over New York City. And so it was really fun to finally work with him. And we did this movie called My Fake Fiancé for ABC Family. And we were like, you know what? We would be great in a TV show together. We should create something. So, and I just was like, my only stipulation was I don't want to play a character that's got it all together. I want to play a complete nightmare. So I got to do that. And we got these great showrunners that, again, we had amazing writing staff and a fantastic crew, and we had a lot of fun for 5 years doing Melissa and Joey. We did 104 episodes of that one, and just had a blast, had an absolute blast. And it was my first show in front of an audience.
That is wild.
Sabrina and Clarissa were not in front of, they were not traditional sitcoms. They were multicams, but they weren't in front of an audience. And so that took me about good 25 episodes to get used to calm myself down in front of an audience and be able to perform for the cameras, not the audience.
Elliot is my boyfriend. What?
She said that Elliot is her boyfriend.
I heard. So, you know, doing it in front of an audience is not my favorite way to do it. It is an exciting, fun format, for sure. But I like going to work and doing what I feel is right.
Yeah.
And then going home.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to get up on a Friday night at 5 p.m., trying to be, you know, you work all week long towards this goal, which is starting at 5 p.m. on Friday night when most people are going out for happy hour and done with their work week. You're trying to get amped up to like get out there and play the big game, you know? Like that's not how I work. I'm used to like being up at 6 a.m. and like, let's do this. And even if I have to go till 2 a.m., I'll fight through it. But 5 p.m. to bring all that energy and try to get a show in 5 hours and then let the audience leave, but they're having pizza and there's freaking flashing lights and there's a DJ and you're trying to like remember lines and talk to your cast members and the writers are coming in with changes and you're like, can you guys, like there's 200 people up there having a party on a Friday night and I'm trying to work. I'm trying to work here, people. I'm trying to work. So it took a little getting used to and I'm much better at it now. But it's still not my favorite way to work. It's so fun to do those live shows. They're definitely a different beast. And I like that I get to mix it up. I like that I get to direct and produce and do multicam and single cam. And I direct multicam and single cam. And like, I really feel-
You are doing it all.
I feel very versatile.
Yes, you are, Melissa. You are indeed. And I also want to take a little trip down memory lane with you, my dear.
Okay.
You know, we like to do that around here at ET.
Of course.
It's amazing. I mean, I think we're all really shocked. We knew we had a good show, but we weren't sure how good, and now the ratings and the audience has proved it. So.
What is it like working with these cats? Are they giving you any trouble?
I think they want to do what they want to do, you know? I think just like the actors. They're like typical actors. They want to go where they want to go, and, you know, you can't really bribe them that easily now. But they're great. They're wonderful, and it's a lot better carrying a real cat than carrying an animatronic cat, so... You know, for a while there I was like, oh, I don't want to carry the cat, but then like I carried the animatronic cat for a scene and I was like, much rather carry the real cat. Thanks.
But you could tell in the beginning of that like our show wasn't expected to do well. We thought it was a great show. We thought it had a lot of potential, especially because I liked shows like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, so I thought it was going to be like that, and it ended up like that. But everything that was coming out, Clueless was the big hit.
What's going on here? We're giving the park a complete makeover. We're being totally selfless.
There was going to be this new show, Clueless, based on the movie that everyone loved, and I loved, and I was like, how are we going to compete with that? And every billboard and everything was Clueless, da-da-da-da, 8 p.m., and then watch Sabrina. And then we ended up being higher in the ratings and just kicking butt on Friday night, and it was, so we were sort of like, oh wow. And then, beginning of second season, we got picked up for second season and third season. That wasn't heard of in network television. They pick up 13 at a time. They do not pick up 2 seasons at a time. And so the crew explained to me, like, do you know how rare this is that we know what we're doing for the next 2 years? No one in Hollywood knows what they're doing for the next 2 years.
It's incredible.
So it was like a huge thing, and I was able to really, we were all able to really like enjoy every minute on that show. Every episode we got to shoot, we were like, this is a blessing, and we know it, and we're having fun. And that's what we did for 7 years.
We're thankful that you did. And then here you are now at this stage in your life, still working diligently, always busy, but you are acting, you're directing, you're producing. At this point in your life, which do you find the most joy in?
I really love directing. I feel like I'm the most creative when I'm directing. I feel like I'm the most in control. I feel like I have the best energy. I'm the most useful, because directing is from the beginning to the end. You know, it is reading that script, it is picking that cast, it is deciding what the props look like, it's deciding what the locations are, it's deciding the angles of the camera, it's deciding every aspect of it, through editing, through the sound design, through the whole thing. But it's also exhausting and my brain hurts. So I love to switch it up.
So y'all have been married for 17 years?
Yes, that's
3
right.
beautiful boys. How do you make it work? You are juggling a lot, personally, professionally, and then this thing called life.
It's not easy. I will say it's ups and downs. You know, there's definitely not a smooth road. It's all built on trust. Like for us, it just started with trust, and that's never wavered. And I think that, and look, we've had to do therapy, and we've had to go through tough times where we hate each other, but we made a commitment and we stick to it, and we just find those moments we bring ourselves back to the place where we fell in love. And we're just gonna keep to our commitment and keep loving each other, and especially for the kids, we're just gonna keep showing them good examples of love, and that it's not always Valentine's Day, it's not always flowers and candy and just sparks flying. Sometimes it's just making it through breakfast without screaming at each other, or making it through politics when you're divided in your household, which is not easy. Or deciding on where to live as a family, and it comes with a lot of sacrifices, and he sacrificed his career for mine, and I sacrificed my house in Connecticut to move to Nashville, and you know, so we...
it's about compromise, right?
It's about compromise, and it's about just being along together, you know? Like when we moved here, we don't know anybody, and the kids were like, why are we moving? We don't know anybody, we don't know where we're going, we don't know anything about this town. But it was like, well, we're going together. The 5 of us will figure it out, and we're really good at making friends, and it'll be fine. We'll be okay.
I love that. That's a great outlook. So you've got 3 boys ranging in ages from 14 to 8. Have any of them had any interest in wanting to pursue the industry?
They have, but only for the wrong reasons.
How so?
They want to be rich and famous.
Okay.
And so they think that's the path, because they've seen that their father is a musician and dropped out of college, and I never quite finished. I went for 7 years, but never could quite get my degree.
Yeah.
So they see that, and they're like, well, we don't need this education stuff. We'll just do what you guys did. So it's hard to be like, no, you still need to get your education, you still need to do well in school, you still have to try hard, and I want them to have, I've always looked for a fallback career my whole life. I wanted something tangible. I wanted something I could go to work. I wanted something I could grow and like.
But look what you have grown. You have Heartbreak Films now, that's producing content. I'm assuming that more projects are on the horizon when it comes to producing, directing.
Yeah, there's actually a few on the horizon. We're very busy, and now with my kids, like my focus is I've got 10 more years of them in the house, and I want to really focus on that.
Right.
So that's what I like about directing now that I'm directing so much, is that I can kind of pick and choose the dates a little bit so that I don't miss birthdays, I don't miss holidays, that kind of thing.
You just seem so real. You're grounded.
Thank you.
You are extremely talented.
Thank you.
But how have you avoided early on in your career the pitfalls that we see so many young child actors experience?
You know, I think some of it, a big chunk of it has to go to my parents, like the fact that they raised me to have a good head on my shoulders, to just, and I really think that I do take a lot of quotes to heart, like things like, seize the day. Like, you know, I do try to make sure, I know someday I'm gonna die, so I try to live every day to the fullest. And I do think that, like, a lot of these cliches kind of hold true, and I think that my family raised me to sort of be responsible for myself, for my siblings, for the image I put out there. And I grew up in New York also. A lot of it I think I have to give to location. Between New York and then working my first show in Florida, I was kept away from the spotlight and all the kind of glitz and glamour that can really rope you in to trouble. And I was also really aware of the fact that whether I was on stage at 10 years old or I was doing Clarissa at 14, I was in front of people and I was expected to behave a certain way. And if I could have totally been a diva, but where would that get me? Like, if I didn't know my lines and I came in all sleepy and grumpy, and that wouldn't be fun. Nobody would like me. And you know, and I think there's a certain aspect to actors too that want to be pleasers. You know, we want to please people, and I wanted to perform. I wanted to make people happy, and so in order to do that, I should probably be that way too. You know, and why am I gonna act like I'm any better than anyone else just because I was given certain opportunities or I was in the right place at the right time? And so that never really took hold on me, and I do give most of the credit to my parents and my city, New York, for just, you know, trying to keep it real and just be a working actor, not a famous actor.
Well, honey, you are the real deal. Thank you for having us over, and welcome to Nash Vegas.
Thank you.
A whole week.
Yes, we've been here a week, so.
And I hear you've got quite the ring on your Ring doorbell.
Oh, yes.
What's your chime?
So the sellers of the house decided to put the Sabrina theme song as my doorbell. So you guys were the first visitors we've had here, so it was the first time I heard the doorbell ring.
That is genius on their part.
It's hilarious. I'm gonna have to put it on Instagram at some point, so
yes.
just wait for it.
Welcome home, Sabrina.
It's so weird.